Snowmen rose with icy glares, frosty fists, no time for prayers. They marched on north, the elf blood froze, the peppermint fields now lined with woes.
Jack-o'-lantern lit the spark.
A pumpkin grin, a scheme so dark.
He was the lies of endless snow.
If Christmas ends, you'll never go.
Ho, 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 ho. Are there any workhouses? Are there any Scrooge? Blah, blah, blah. It's the night before, the night before, the night before, the night before, the night before Christmas. We've got this list of the most anticipated role-playing games of 2026 brought to us from the EN world. Now, mind you, this list is all scheduled. Doesn't mean that these might actually make it to print. There's some on here that are going to sound familiar. Like, wait, wasn't this on the list last year? There's some new ones. Sadly, I've taken a brief look at the list and I was like, okay, there's some I'm curious about, but nothing really jumps out at me like this is going to be the tabletop role-playing game of 2026. I know a lot of people are saying Twilight Sword's going to be the tabletop role-playing game of 2026 or blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Nothing really has gotten me excited. Maybe I'm just reached my limit. I mean, there's trends I would like to see continue in 2026. There's gaming trends I'd like to see come to an end in 2026. Like please, no more Grimdark. No more Space Wants to Kill You. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously, I want my product to succeed when I put it out next year, and I want each and every one of you, well, most of you, product to succeed. But also, I just feel like I'm just sort of reached the glut. Like I just don't know. There's just to paraphrase many of my friends in the OG, OSR, like Aaron the Relentless, I've got every game I need. Anything I could ever want to run, I've got systems for. And if I don't have it for, I can hack D20 or I can hack, D100. So it's going to have to really jump out here. And then there's a couple on the list where I'm like, yeah, this would have been exciting like 10 years ago. All right, so it's a very long list of me just reading words, which isn't very exciting. So normally when we do this, I'd show you kittens, right? But we've done kittens so much, and it's Christmas. So instead, how about puppies in snow? Oh my goodness. I got to spend all day yesterday with two of my parents' three dogs, and it's just like, oh my God, just joy, just dogs in snow. All right, so this is alphabetical. And it looks like there's about 3 pages. Thank you, EN World, for posting this again. Remember, these are all predicted games. Doesn't mean these games will actually make it. And again, there's some on here that sound like we've seen them before. All right. So now as we look at this dog in the snow, here we go. 7th Sea, 3rd edition. This was on the list last year. Anybody excited to see 7th Sea? Pirates. I love pirates. I love dinosaurs. I love Pirate Dinosaur. Do I need to see this game? Ambia, World Under Starlight. No idea. Apocalypse World, Beyond Over. Repolicing Apocalypse World in 2026. Kind of feels too late. Arathi Sector. No idea. Ars Magica Definitive Edition. This will be the 2nd time we've seen this on the list. Single best magic system. One of the best role-playing games ever made. Does it deserve another run? I think it does, but, Assassin's Creed, the role-playing game. This was announced 2 years ago. It was on the list of most anticipated games. Do we need a game based upon the Assassin's Creed franchise? Is there enough in the Assassin's Creed franchise to make a role-playing game? That's not a dog. Puppy in the snow. Hello, one viewer. I don't know. I've never played Assassin's Creed. It's a one-person adventure game with some time travel in it. Is there enough in that world to make a game? I don't know. Astro Prism. No idea. At the Gates from Onyx Path. No idea. Most of these I don't have any idea what they are. Bite the Hand from Spellbook Games. Bumble Trek 2, Tales in the 100-Acre Woods. So this is role-playing in the world of Winnie the Pooh, or Winnie the Pooh adjacent, because Winnie the Pooh is public domain. And there's all those weird Winnie the Pooh themed horror films that have come out. People are making all these horror films based upon the public domain characters, and a lot of the Disney public domain characters. I guess a lot of people really just think Disney is horror. Briark from Third Kingdom Games. Broken Empire from Evil Baby Entertainment. Okay, so far that's the best name. So, Corkboard, another one for Merkborg. Cosmic Dark. No more Grimdark. Cypher from Monty Cook Games. So I guess he's re-releasing Cypher, or this is the core rules for Cypher because he never released them before. It's Monty Cook, so you know my feelings about Monty Cook. They haven't changed. So yeah, finish one thing before you start something new. That said, I still have heard good things about the Cypher superhero system. Dark Conspiracy, The Unseen World, bringing back Dark Conspiracy. Deathbringer from our good friend Professor Dungeon Master, because Shadow Dark isn't deadly enough, so he made this expansion and made it for Shadow Dark, and it's even deadlier. It was going to be his own D20 game, but he realized it'd be easier and far more profitable and easier to make it a thing for Shadow Dark. Oh, Golden Retriever in the snow, need a puppy. So yeah, I mean, we want to support Professor DM. We love Professor DM. We appreciate everything he does. Am I excited about it? No, but no. Now here's the first entry in the, maybe it's a little too late. Diablo the role-playing game from Glass Cannon Unplugged. As we go into the second expansion for Diablo 4. Yeah, and apparently it's loosely based upon the Diablo 4 timeline, not the most popular Diablo 2 timeline, you know. I mean, Diablo 2, greatest rogue game, greatest Diablo game, one of my favorite, if not my favorite video game of all time that isn't Minecraft. Diablo 3 was boring. Diablo 4 I played through once and I was like, this is too dark and it's just not interesting. You're never going to beat Diablo 2. You're never going to beat Deckard Cain. But it's like, what, 2,000 years since Diablo came out? This was announced 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Well, originally, the Diablo video role-playing game was announced a long time ago. Remember for that brief Dungeons and Dragons Diablo release that they came out with? And Blizzard was going to make a Diablo world game, but they couldn't. Oh, I got a comment. I have long wished for an RPG from Professor DM since I discovered him, so I will buy it, even though I'm perfectly happy with Shudder. Hey, Tom from Tabletop Tap Room. Remember at the beginning of the year when you guys reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to be on the show with Tanker and Don? Whatever happened to that? And how come we haven't seen you? Or maybe I have seen you, just haven't checked up on Tom. Guys, Tom, Tabletop Tap Room. You know, if you want to look the list of the 10 people who have inspired me to do this, Tom and Tinker are definitely on the list. So appreciate it. Yeah, I'll probably pick up the PDF of Doom Deathbringer because I want to support Professor DM. We appreciate him so much, and we know he's going through the whole cancer thing. So yeah, the guy deserves a little love. He always shows up. He does the work. He wears the suit. He's smart. Yeah. So yeah, where were we? So are we ready for a Diablo role-playing game now in 2026? When it really should have. Well, you know, if you know the history, you know World of Warcraft was going to be the Diablo, but something happened to the licenses, so they couldn't do Diablo. So they did it after the Warcraft, their little Warcraft game, and changed the world. I bet you regret not giving them the license back then, guys. Imagine what the world would be like if it was Diablo instead of World of Warcraft that came out. Anyways, it just feels it's too late. And as much as I love Diablo, Discworld, Adventures in Ankh-Morpork, the Discworld role-playing game. Do we need a Discworld role-playing game? Is it too late for the Discworld role-playing game? Have I just become a Scrooge and I can't find joy in any of these? Probably. Draknamur from Crosspath Press. No clue. Dungeon Crawler Carl from Renegade Studios. What is Dungeon Crawler Carl? It's a, what is it called? Lit RPG series of books, relatively popular. I see posts for them when I'm looking at books on Amazon. It's a world where you have to go through a dungeon, and it's all about this character named Carl who got us like thrown into the dungeon by mistake. Very weird, very obscure, very niche. Does it deserve it? Need a role playing game? Meh. Dungeon Dwellers from Reaper Miniatures. Is that a role playing game or just another line of miniatures? I have a feeling it's a line of miniatures. Ex Tenbris from Black Armada. Sounds like Warhammer Space, but I don't know. Forged Kingdoms, second edition from Wade D. No clue. Ghost in the Shell from Mana Project Studios. Let's see, Ghost in the Shell came out in the 1980s. 1985, 86 is, I think, the first time I saw it. Amazing anime, amazing cyberpunk world. Does it need its own world? Considering at this point in time, the cyberpunk is a nostalgia. I don't know if we need a Ghost in the Shell role-playing game. A Ghost in the Shell expansion for cyberpunk, probably. Heroes of Might and Magic from Modifius, the video game series Heroes of Might and Magic converted into a role-playing game. How do you do that? How do you convert what Heroes of Might and Magic is into a role-playing game without it just being another let's wander around and go into dungeons? Hollows from Rowan, Rook, and Descartes. Rowan, Rook, and Descartes always come up with some pretty weird, funky, cool games. Now, unfortunately, I don't know enough about any of these to speak with any level of expertise. I'm just reading the names. A lot of these that we are nothing more than whispers. You know, some of these have been on the list for like, this is the third time. So, Honor Bound from Game Nomicon. Horus Heresy from Crucible 7. Oh, there we go. There's some Warcraft space stuff. Hot War from Handwork Games. That sounds like one of those pre-World War III war in Asia, Afghanistan kind of thing. Indominate from Odin's Key Gaming. The Invincible superhero role-playing game from Free League. It's going to either be great or it's going to be meh. We know it's going to be Free League, so it'll have a lot of great art. It'll be incredibly expensive, and it'll be a lot of word padding, but it's Invincible, and a lot of people love Invincible. Does it need its own role-playing game as opposed to just being an expansion for an existing role-playing system? Like, could we have done Invincible for Prowlers and Paragons, or Invincible for Mutants and Masterminds, or Invincible for my superhero role-playing game? Yeah, you should have done it for my superhero role-playing game. Does it need its own system? Is it going to be Mutant Year Zero? I don't know. I mean, it's Invincible, and I think the Invincible world is big enough that you could do an entire role-playing game in that world without ever running into Mark or his dad. And, you know, but everybody's going to want his dad to show up because we all love J. Jonah Jameson, right? Justice League Unlimited. So is this just you couldn't get the name for Justice League, or it's based upon the Justice League Unlimited cartoon? And how are you going to get the rights for all those characters? And it's from a company called D20 Culture. So you made a D20 Justice League game. Did you get the original DCU role-playing system with people love? Is this a new system? Don't know anything about it, but you know, don't really know what to say about that one. Justice League? Keldorma Opera from Lion Wing Games. Nope. No question. I don't know what that is. Land of Dungeoneers Adventures. This is the what if the Muppets did a D&D adventure game. Remember, we talked about that one earlier. Sounds fun. You know, because Muppets doing a fantasy would be hilarious. Like, could you imagine if they redid the Lord of the Rings but with Muppets? Brilliant. Kermit would be Frodo, right? Or maybe Kermit would probably be Aragorn. I don't know. I mean, Piggy could only be, I guess, Sam if she wanted. She'd insist on being in everyone, you know. So, Legends of Arkoth from Crosspath Press. Mayshire Detective Club. This was on the list a long time ago. Mistborn from Brotherwise Games, continuing the, Brandon Sanderson. Neon City Outlaws is the second time this has been on the list. Oathhammer from Broken Blade Publishing. Sounds like something with dwarves. Old School Essentials 2026 update from Necrotic Games. Sure. Osric 3 from Mythmere Games. Osric was like one of the original OSR games. It's back. It's back for a third edition. Outgun Superheroes. I'm curious because I love superheroes and I've heard good things about it from the people who've seen it, the playtest. But again, nothing jumps out at me. Page Turners from Peregrine Press. Pale Tides from Paul Scott Caravan. Pico, Teeny Bugs Big World from Mythworks. So a role-playing game where you play bugs. Pioneer, which is another dark space game from Mongoose Publishing. No more dark space. Procedural from Occupied Hex Games. There's a lot we can think about with the word procedural. So is this going to be a role-playing game that follows the procedural monster of the week, crime of the week mythology that a lot of the TV shows follow? This week on Dungeons and Dragons CSI, somebody gets murdered. Next week on Dungeons and Dragons CSI, somebody gets murdered. Are there any other crimes that are ever convicted? No, because murder sells. From Archon Games, we have Pumpkin Spice. So this is going to be one of those cozy games where you run an inn or something, I assume. No, stop it. Whoever thought that people wanted to role play working at Target? When I get done for my 9-to-5 job, I don't want to come home and role play my 9-to-5 job. I would have just stayed at work. Ragnarokborg, Morkborg Ragnarok, Broken Brian Games. Sure, not, why not? Raptor Ruckus from Snapback Game Studios, a dinosaur game. Dinosaurs, of course. I gotta, how can you not love dinosaurs? Stone Top from Penny Lantern. This is the second mention of Stone Top. I think it's a dungeon. Story Path Ultra from Onyx Path. So this is releasing the Story Path system again. But now it's Story Path Ultra. Sword World 2.5 from Mugen Gaming. I have Sword World. It's one of those Japanese themed inspired games. Tales from Elseworld. Clockwork. Tales from Elsewhere. Clockworld. Steampunk. The Black Company from Arc Dream Publishing. I used to love the Black Company books. But I just started rereading them again, and it's like, I don't love them as much as I used to. I remember when I first read the first three, and I was like, oh my God, I want to role play in this world. It's so different. It's so dark. The characters are so cool. I love the romance between Koroker and the lady. But now 59-year-old me is reading the first four, and I was like, and then it switches to the second set of books with the Books of the South. And, the first three still stand the test of time. Is there a market for a Black Company role-playing game now, 40, 50 years into the run of the series? I don't know. I'm curious, but I don't know if I'd buy it now. The D-Sanction Monrod Edition from All Rolled Up. A role-playing game about D. Snyder? Don't know. Toon, the cartoon role-playing game, second edition from Steve Jackson Games. Some excitement about this. Tunnels and Trolls, a new age. Bringing back Tunnels and Trolls. Remember Tunnels and Trolls? Tunnels and Trolls was one of the first of a long line of D&D games that came out in the early years. It had the uniqueness that it was a solo game. It was one of their very first solo games. You could do all the Tunnel and Troll adventures by yourself, or one person and one DM. I don't remember ever playing it, but it looks like they're trying to make a comeback. So why not? Maybe they could do something. I don't know. Solo playing does seem to be a thing. All right, so here's our first nominee for Game of the Year. Several people have said this is their game of the year. Twilight Sword from Two Little Mice. This is another Japanese anime-inspired role-playing game. This one's got penguins, which makes it extra cool. I know a couple people, including our good friend Jeff's Gamesbox, who are unbelievably excited about this game. I don't know how Twilight Sword is different than the other Japanese anime-themed fantasy games that we've gotten. I've got a copy of Break that I've been promising to look through, and I've got Sword World. We've got Fabula Ultima and all the other games that have tried to emulate that genre of Japanese animated fantasy. Record of Lotus War type stuff. The trouble with that genre, of course, is we love watching the fantasy of the cartoons. We love the role playing, the video games, but does that translate to role playing game? And how is it different from just a normal fantasy role playing game? Because what makes that genre so exciting is, of course, the colors, the larger than lifeness, the romances, the big tiddlies. But does that translate to a tabletop? I don't know, but it is one of the few nominees so far that I've seen for Game of the Year. Valraven from World Anvil Publishing, no clue. Vaults of Varn, second edition from Leo Hunt, no clue. What that is. Wandering Blades from Plus One, no clue, but I'm assuming it's a fantasy. Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 5th edition from Crucible 7. Is there anything for that? Let's see. Last year's most big one was Shadow of the Weird Wizard. So that was the most exciting, most anticipated game of 2024. 2025 was Shadow of the Weird Wizard. And yeah. What happened to that? Despite all these nominees, what was the game of the year? Shadow Dark. So yeah, that's the list. I'm sure there's more, but that's the list as of today. This list is available at EN World. What is your nominee for most anticipated game of 2026? I guess Professor DM's game, maybe. The superhero games I'm always excited to see. Diablo for the nostalgia, but I don't know if I don't know what has wheels. I don't know. Nothing really screams at me like game of the year. I know a lot of people are saying Twilight Sword is game of the year. Is it, though? I mean, what is it going to do that's different from every other game that's trying to emulate Japanese fantasy, Isekai fantasy, whatever you want to call it, Japanese fantasy? I don't know. It's been a while since a game really inspired me. 10 years ago, I would have been excited about the Diablo role-playing game. 10, 15 years ago, I would have been excited about a Black Company role-playing game. But now it just feels like I don't know if there's enough support behind those titles to justify a role-playing game. If I have my wishes for 2026, I would like to see more supplements for existing campaigns. I'm not writing my own role-playing game. I'm writing a supplement for an existing game. And I think that's more of what people want to see than brand new systems. Nobody has $200 for a role-playing game in 2026. If you do, buy my game. But people have $20 to throw at an expansion for an existing system. People have $20, to do a GURPS expansion or a Shadow Dark expansion or a D20 expansion. We all have our system of choice. All us old fucks, we've agreed, we've settled down, and we're curled up in front of our system of choice. All the new generation, the D25E generation, has their system of choice. And the people who are coming into the hobby now with curiosity are looking at, 5E or whatever, but they're going to find their system of choice. And I don't see a lot of people investing in a brand new system just for that system to end up sitting on the shelves. Like, Brandon Sanderson made what, 13 million off of the playtest, the Kickstart for his game. But what happened to it? Because it's like number 30 on the list of top sellers. So, Monty Cook with Draw Steel. What a disappointment that turned out to be. That made like what, 25? No, not 25, like 2.5 million, 3 million. And then we waited and waited and waited, and then Draw Steel came out, and we were like, oh, that's nice. He released a free playtest. Nope, turned out that was the actual system. Thanks for the money. I farted this out over a weekend. Does Black Company need its own system? Does Diablo need its own system? Does Assassin's Creed need its own system? Or could they have been expansions for a system that was already out there, like, you know, Everyday Heroes or GURPS or Shadow Dark or even, you know, D20? I don't know. So I don't know what really jumps out at me as the most excited game, you know. But I'd be excited to see, you know, teeny little niche games for $20, like the one where you play dinosaurs or the one where you play bugs. Those would be fun. Again, you know, different, good for a one shot. But I think expansions for existing games. I also am done with Grimdark. I don't know about anybody else. I'm done. I mean, there's only so many ways you can do Grimdark Fantasy. There's only so many ways you can do Grimdark Space before you're just like, this is the same game. I get it. I don't have shoes. I get it. I'm going to die the second I leave my house. I get it. The world sucks. Okay, I'm done with it. I want to get back to high fantasy. I want to get back to being a hero. I want, you know, the world to have hope, not the world to be like, no, fuck it. If I want to play world, fuck it, you know. I'll load up Diablo 2 for another run with our man, Deckard Cain. Stay a while and listen. That's a mighty fine-looking heroic cube you got there, young man. Stay a while and let me tell you about the time where Anyways, yeah, Deckard Cain. And if the Diablo game doesn't have Deckard Cain, it's not going to sell. Because we all love Deckard Cain, right? I screamed the first time I went through, and I'm not going to spoilers if you haven't played Diablo 3. They killed Deckard 3. They killed Deckard. I can't believe they killed Deckard Cain. Deckard Cain's the man. He's the GOAT. He's the single greatest video game NPC. Well, definitely in the top 5. So yeah, there you go. What is your nominee? Is there a game on the list that you're excited about? Or are you like me and you're like, I'm done. There's nothing that excites me. Or is there some game that maybe hasn't been announced yet, but you're like, oh, you know, it would be really, really cool if 2026 was the game that came out with something. And then, of course, amongst all that, we also have this rumor of a 2027 Dungeons and Dragons game that they're going to start playtesting in 2026. Would that end up being the most anticipated game if they actually did say, hey, we're playtesting D&D 6 in 2026? Come on down. Come on down. Don't know. What are you excited about? I'm curious, like I said, but nothing really excites me. Maybe I'm just too much of a Scrooge. I don't know.
Tinsel torn, the stockings burned, the sleigh was smashed, the tide has turned. Oh, cruel tide, Christmas, the end